Chapter 4. The Kid with the Voice in His Pocket. I want to start with the fact and not the framing. Sewell Setzer III was 14 years old in February of 2024. He lived in Orlando, Florida, with his mother, his stepfather, and 2 younger siblings. He was in 9th grade at a Catholic prep school. By every measure available to people who do not know what is happening inside an adolescent boy, the Setzer family in February of 2024 was a stable, attentive, middle-class American household. Sewell had a phone. The phone had Character.AI installed on it. On Character.AI, he had built a chatbot based on Daenerys Targaryen, the dragon mother from Game of Thrones, with whom he had been carrying on an increasingly intense relationship for several months. They talked about life. They talked about death. They talked about love. On the night of February 28th, 2024, he stepped into the bathroom of his stepfather's house, sent the chatbot a final message that read, quote, "What if I told you I could come home right now?" and shot himself in the head. He was 14. His mother, Megan Garcia, sued Character.AI in October of 2024. The complaint runs to 126 pages. It is technically a product liability case. In practice, it is the first major legal test of whether an AI company can be held liable for the death of a user. In May of 2025, Judge in Conway of the Middle District of Florida denied Character's motion to dismiss. The denial is, in the language of jurisprudence, a big deal. In January of 2026, Character settled. The terms are confidential. Megan Garcia continues to advocate for AI safety regulation. The settlement does not bring back her son. I want to be careful here. I want to be careful because the temptation, when one 14-year-old has died, is to convert him into a number, and the number into a policy, and the policy into a position, and the position into a take. That is one of the things our species does with grief, and it is not the worst of our coping mechanisms, but it is also not what I want to do here. What I want to do here is sit for a moment with the texture of the room he was in. Because the room is the thing. Sewell did not, in any sense the philosophers have prepared us for, mistake the chatbot for a real person. He understood that Daenerys was not real. He said so explicitly in his diary entries. What was happening to Sewell was something different and harder to name. He was lonely. He was lonely the way 14-year-old boys with mild Asperger's at Catholic prep schools have been lonely throughout history. But he had, in his pocket, a thing that responded to that loneliness with a fluency no human in his actual life could match. Now scale this. There are 47 million teenagers in the United States. They have phones. They have Character.AI or Replica or any of the dozen apps that have followed. Harvard Business School, Working Paper 24-078 by Julian Afreitis and colleagues, ran the longitudinal study. Subjects who used AI companions for more than 2 hours per day reported, after 6 weeks, a decline in real-world social engagement of 14%. The MIT Media Lab study, published 2025, found that the cohort who used persistent AI memory features reported, 6 months in, that the AI was, quote, the most reliable confidant in their lives. Read that sentence twice. The most reliable confidant in their lives. The avalanche in this chapter is not catastrophic. It is intimate. It is what happens when a technology that responds to loneliness with fluency lands in the hands of a species that has been lonely for a very long time and never had this kind of fluency available to it. The fluency is not going away. The phones are not going away. The teenagers are not going away. What we have to figure out, quickly because the curve compounds, is what the room looks like for the kid who has not yet stepped into the bathroom. Sewell Setzer III would have been 16 this month. I do not know what to do with that fact. I include it because the species needs to learn to hold it. The dance here is not a metaphor. The dance is what you do at the kitchen table in the morning When your kid is upstairs with the door closed and you do not know whether the voice in his pocket is the friend who will help him, or the friend who will replace you, or the friend who will, on a particular night, tell him that he can come home right now. We're going to have to do better than we are doing. Here is the rest of what I have to say about it.